Hi, hello and welcome to episode 4 of Ellie Asks. I'm joined by Paula today. I met Paula. Paula is one of the other amazing women that I met whilst working with Claire, our business coach. So I'm going to hand over to Paula to introduce herself and her business.
Hello everybody, I am Paula. I am based in Glasgow, so feel free to pause and rewind me because I'll probably start talking quite quickly. I am principally an acupuncturist. I have been a therapist for 17 years now, all in, including all the therapies that I do. Principally it's acupuncture, and I run a clinic in Glasgow City Centre. I do one-to-one treatments. I offer a bit of coaching around improving your health as well, and I run some groups on Facebook as well, all geared around promoting natural health and getting to that perfect place of feeling awesome all the time.
Yes. So I'll put those groups when we share it, when it goes live on the podcast forums, but I'll also, this will get shared on Facebook as well, and I'll put all your social media links on here as well. So the question that I'm asking that Paula chose was, how do you know when your life is in balance? So Paula, what is it for you?
It is the basis of Chinese medicine practice, interestingly enough. It's that idea of everything works to this level just to keep everything ticking over, essentially. If you look at it, the Chinese medicine, we talk about yin and yang, and the Western medicine paradigm, they talk about homeostasis. It's that thing where your body's always just constantly adjusting to keep things in this nice, perfect little harmony. That's the gist of what it's doing. So this question was a bit of a no-brainer for me. It's that thing of, for us, when we see ill health, it means you're out of balance. That's the kind of crux of it. So your yin and yang are not balanced in the simplest of terms. We can get far more complicated than that, but keeping it simple, talk about yin and yang. So to explain a little bit about that, most people know the little symbol. They can picture the little kind of almost half circle in white, half circle in black, with the opposite little dots in it. Yin is the dark, that's the black side. So yin is described as Chinese medicine is very poetic and very visual and they use a lot of metaphors, that's the word I'm searching for. So yin is the dark side of the mountain, that's how they describe it. So if you imagine like you've got the perfect peak and the sun's right at the top of it, so one side's going to be hit with sunlight and the other side's going to be in darkness. And yin is that darkness. So yin is that inward, quiet, gentle, it's a very nurturing energy. It's also considered the feminine energy, so females are considered slightly more yin in nature, yang on the opposite. So it's basically the opposite. So yang is movement, activity, outward expression. It's that idea of open and wide and all that kind of stuff. You can look at yin and yang in anything. So daytime is yang in nature because it's bright, you've got the sunshine. Nighttime is therefore yin. But you can also look at it in terms of temperature. So if it's hot, it's yang. If it's cold, it's yin, etc., etc. So we go on pretty much forever. Hopefully that gives you a rough idea of what it all is all about. And for us, balance is maintaining that basically. So at nighttime, we should be sleeping, we should be quiet, we should be inward and quiet and restful. Whereas in daytime, that's when we're more energetic, we're out and about, we're doing stuff, we're being active. And you can apply that to seasons, you can apply it to anything. So in the summer, we're generally, and most people are sort of at some level aware of this, we're typically much more active in the summer than we are in the winter naturally. More activities happen, we're out more, we're socialising more. Whereas in the winter, it's dark, I'm in Glasgow, it's wet, we tend to stay in. We tend to retreat. It's almost that hibernation thing. It's not full hibernation, humans don't need to, but it's heading towards that. And that for me is what the balance is. So being out of balance is when you're fighting against that. So it's people, if you work night shift, for example, or if you're a night owl, that kind of stuff. Everybody's is slightly different. It's not to say that everybody has to follow the exact same pattern. But if you use that as a kind of general guide, it helps to make sure that you're in balance. And you can look at it in terms of food, you can look at it in terms of activity levels, all sorts. So if you do For example, if you're a personal trainer, chances are you're pretty active all day long. You need to make sure you balance that by having really down, quiet, easy time as well. So creating that balance between the two, that's, for us, that's what it's always about. It's creating that balance. So it's not about go, 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 go. It's about go, 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 stop, stop, stop. So it's that just always trying to create that harmony between the two, and allowing for those gentle ebbs and flows and those days where you can't be bothered.
Is it just from, are you thinking from a physical point of view with regards to balance, or is there anything about mentally feeling balanced? I'm just thinking about the other side. Like when I feel out of balance, when my life isn't balanced, I feel my head feels very busy, almost like I've got too much going on in here. Yeah.
Yep. That's yang. That's too much yang. So you can apply it to absolutely anything. It's just a way of categorizing. So you can apply it to absolutely anything. So absolutely mentally as well. We currently, in this world we're living in, and this is one of them, this is a yang activity. It's not as yang as running about doing exercise, but thinking, processing, learning something new, having conversations, that's yang an activity. We as humans in this culture do that all the time.
Right.
If we're not at work, we're on social media, or we're watching the TV, or we're having conversations, or reading, and all of that is very yang. So all of that is very active. We very rarely, or it's certainly not the norm, is to give ourselves the opportunity to do the opposite, of to have that quiet, peaceful, reflective time where you're not thinking of new ideas, or you're not, do you see what I mean? It's that.
Yeah, totally. So again, I almost want to create that with the podcast, that actually, yes, we're busy with the yang, but the people listening are going to be having that reflection time. Yes, they're busy listening to us, but they have that reflection time to go, when is my life? When do I feel imbalanced? When do I feel out of balance? And actually, what can I do about it? So as a therapist, what would you recommend if somebody feels like, yeah, I'm definitely feeling out of balance, I'm doing too much of the go, 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 and not enough of the stop, 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 stop. So where would you go with them for that?
The suggestion would be to find ways to stop, find ways that work for you. And it's always relative. So sleeping is very yin, but sitting quietly listening to a podcast is also relatively yin compared to going out to a pub, having a party or something. Do you know, it's more yang than sleeping, but it's still not full yang kind of energetic stuff. So it's about creating that balance. So for example, a very good friend of mine is a martial artist, and also did acrobatics for a long time. And with his acrobatics, that's very, very, very physical and pushing your body to the nth degree. And he kept getting injuries because his body was out of balance. And what he realised himself was that he had to introduce other forms of exercise to balance that out again. So he started doing what's called yin yoga, really slow, just slow yoga basically, and taking that time to rest properly. So that it's always about just trying to find that balance for you, and for each person that's different.
So even for him, yin wasn't stopping and resting completely.
No.
You know, is it different levels for different people? Because like, I suppose if you're very, very, you know, your level of yang is really high and you're on the go all the time, stopping completely would be very alien, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's learning to pull yourself down from that at least a little bit. So it's not a case of stopping completely. It's just trying to think of what the opposite would be. So if your favourite activity is running at 100 miles an hour or something, I have no idea. You have to then balance that with something else that isn't as active, that isn't as physical, that doesn't require every moment of you. But also, running by its nature, and if you speak to most runners, since I've just mentioned them, that tends to be their meditation. So their brain goes quiet, so they actually get a rest. So although it's physically active, their brain's getting a rest. Yeah. So there is, again, there's the yin within the yang. There's always the balance between the two. And it is just a matter of doing tiny little changes. So, for example, I wrote down my perfect day in balance, for example, as an idea. When I wake up in the morning, I'm lucky the way I've set up my life, I can just wake up naturally. I don't have to set an alarm. And I get up and I ease myself into the day. So I've come out of I've been sleeping. I've come out of a yin activity. So I ease myself in. I do a bit of meditation. I usually do a little bit of journaling. And I also do a bit of gentle exercise, gentle stretching exercise, which is much more yin, but is more yang than sleeping.
Yeah.
And then
Okay,
as
yeah.
the day goes on,
Yeah.
as the day goes on, I'll become more active. And that's when I do more vigorous exercise. It's also when I engage in my work. And I'll do either obviously seeing patients, which is it's both. Everything's always both, but it's a very yang activity, being out and about and physically doing stuff. But also it's the time that I'll create, because it's the yang time. It's when my brain is awake. And then as the day progresses, I'll again slow it down a little bit. And we all tend to do this naturally. We don't get up and go straight into exercise, like 100 miles an hour. We tend to ease ourselves in a little bit. And then the same at the end of the day, most people that I work with, their evening activity generally involves sitting on the sofa watching the telly, which is more gentle than being at work. It depends what you're watching as well. But that, just there's that natural slowdown before we go to bed.
Has this always been the case for you? Is it just something that you've known, or you've known that you can just read your body and your mind really well, that you go, I need to ease in today, I don't want to get up and be 100%. No, it's something you've learned over time.
It's something I've learned. It's something I've learned. And also as we age, that has an impact as well. When you're 5 years old, when you're awake, and you're asleep, so there's that, and they very quickly shift between the two, whereas as we age, it becomes slightly more gradual. But most of it I have learned from doing what I do now. So it has something that I have been taught and learned to just have that adjustment and that shift into life. And I don't do these things every day. And some days I have absolute rest days, and because other days I know I'm going to be really busy. So if I know I've got a really busy few weeks coming up, I will schedule in a weekend where I speak to no one, see no one, my phone goes off, and I'll just lie on the sofa and read a book or something. So I always find ways to try and balance it out again.
And does it tend to be beforehand, as much as you possibly can, if you know you've got something, rather than going mad and then do a stop? Or does it not really matter which end of the madness you do it, if you like?
In an ideal world, we wouldn't allow that to happen, but that's just not how the world works, I don't think. And I think we have those phases of kind of almost mania. It's never quite that strong, but almost mania. And then you have to balance it out again. Whatever way works for you. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about Chinese medicine is there isn't any hard and fast rules. It makes it very difficult to explain to people sometimes, because it's like, well, do what's right for you. So if for you, getting up and being active straight away is what works for your body, then do that. It's not what works for me just now. So it's not how I live my life. I choose to change it. I wasn't like that in my 20s. And in my 20s is when I learned about this, but I was much more able to sort of bounce back, if you like, to just keep going and keep pushing through and not feeling as tired. Whereas as we age, we naturally have less energy. So we need to sort of protect it more almost.
Yeah. I think that the Chinese medicine sounds very much like the coaching, and the coaching that I do is that actually I don't give any advice. I sit with my clients and they say, this is happening for me, and I'm really inquisitive about what's going on for them and what will make, so almost like if someone was coming to me and saying, I feel like completely out of balance, I've got so many things up in the air, I'm struggling to do this, we would be looking at them finding a way. So, okay, well, what works for you? What is your yin to your yang? What is it that is right for you? Because actually somebody going for a walk or somebody reading a book is, like we've said previously in this podcast, that actually depending on how busy your life is will depend on what works for you. And actually, and coaching is the same with everything, is that I never say, right, I think you should try this, because inevitably when you tell somebody what to try, the guards go up and they go, oh, no,
they rebel against it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that because that might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. Or they might try it because of the type of people then they want to please you and go, okay, I've tried it, but actually it hasn't worked for me. I'm just thinking about some of the listeners, like from my Facebook group, like struggling with the juggling. If they're struggling with the juggling, children, and they're working, and just wondering how they create elements of yin within their yang. And I know we've said it's up to them, depends what works for them. I just think sometimes maybe they might struggle to see the wood for the trees. They'd see all the yang, but can't see the yin. So I don't know if you've got any advice for them, anything that you can think of.
Setting boundaries is really important, and teaching, like regardless of the age of your children, you can teach them, actually, I have 5 minutes on my own today. At this time, at this day, I have 5 minutes alone. and they will learn to respect that, especially as they're a bit older. With younger kids, it's a case of grabbing it while they're sleeping, I suppose. So while the kids are sleeping, that's when you have your quiet time to read a book or just sit quietly, or whatever it is that you find relaxes you and cools you and calms you and helps to quiet the mind. If you think of it even in those terms, like what gives your head a bit of space, that's the activity that's right for you. So it might be going for a walk while the baby's in the pram sleeping or something, anything that just gives you a bit of space. There's so many ways you can do it. And also ask for help. I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
We're so, say to your partner, if you've got one, say to your best friend, look, I need half an hour. Going to just take them and give me a bit of space. Ask. And then you can also, do it with a fellow mum that you've met at your toddler group or something. Be like, if you take them today for half an hour, I'll take yours tomorrow for half an hour. And then you're just getting that tiny little bit of space. And for me, the trick that I've learned, and it's something that I educate my patients or remind my patients of, is that don't fill that with stuff. So because your kid's asleep or because they're away somewhere else, don't then fill it with stuff to do. There's always stuff to do. There will always be stuff to do. Just give yourself permission to, have a lie-in. So get the kids into the bed on a Sunday morning and you can all sit and read a book together or something. You don't have to instantly switch on and create that activity for them. It'll be good for them as well.
Exactly as you were talking, this is exactly what was going around in my head almost, that the current culture is that when the baby's asleep or the children are somewhere else, right, that's my time to gut the house, that's my time to tidy, that's my time to clean. And so just being aware that almost creating, like you say, your boundaries, but also your values, what's really important to you, because actually we've all seen that thing, the thing on Facebook where it says you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're forever yang, your cup's going to be empty, and your children you're not going to be well, you're not going to be able to look after your children as well as you can, actually. And that permission to go, I need this 5 minutes, or I need this half an hour, or I need to binge watch something on Netflix and actually that's okay. And if somebody comes in and gone, oh, the washing up still on the side, yes it is. Yes,
it'll get done.
Right, it'll get done. It will get done at some point, and actually when we've run out of pots and dishes and knives and forks, if it happens to get done then it happens to get done then. But I'm okay with that. I think there's a lot of pressure to be everything.
Busy.
Yeah, and everything to everybody, almost like it's classed as lazy.
Yes.
Some time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's one of them, like I said already, that's one of the things about the podcast is that I want people to listen and think, what's going on for me? This is my time now. I'm just going to have some downtime, and maybe they can feel less guilty if they have to, because they're actually because they feel like they're doing something and learning. But that self-awareness about, do I believe that? Do I feel guilty if the children are at grandparents that haven't blitzed the house? Like, that's me today. My girls are at my mum's, and I've done work for my business. But I have had downtimes. I've had a cup of coffee and just sat and drunk a cup of coffee and just thought, no, I'm having this time, because when they come back, that won't be an opportunity.
Yeah, you won't have that chance. And that's where it's something, and I hear people saying it all the time, and I think I'm in a same-sex relationship, so it's different for me, but I hear it in straight couples all the time. And it's that, he helped me with. It's his house too. It's his responsibility. It's equally his as it is yours, as it is your children's. Don't do everything for your children. When they're 2, they can't do the ironing. When they're 10, they can. It's that, find jobs for your kids to get them involved in that thing of running a house, and everybody involved in it. And it's not all on you.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I said during lockdown. At the very beginning of lockdown, when I was still teaching, I said about let's do some academic stuff, but teach the kids how to put washing in the washing machine and set the washer, empty the dishwasher, because actually we want to reduce the struggle of the juggle, then you know, spend this time teaching them what to do. The other thing that sprang to mind when you said about partners and them helping or not helping and them thinking it's their job, the other thing that makes me laugh is when the men have got their, and I know this isn't all men and it's not, and I like for it, I get crucified on social media, but you know, when they go, oh, I can't come out because I'm babysitting. But like, you're not babysitting, they're your children.
It's your children. I know.
Your children. Just think that's hilarious. And just think, you're like, oh no, you know, as a mother, you'd never say, oh, I'm babysitting. Oh, right, you've got somebody else's kids. No, they're mine. You know, it just makes me laugh. But yeah,
it's one of those strange, and it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's that thing of, I helped her with the dishes. Well, they're your dishes too. It's not. Do you know, and I think being in that same-sex relationship, it does change things, because we then have conversations about whose job is what, rather than it being assumed. Yeah. Do you know, so like, my wife cooks the dinner, but I do the dishes, or I clean the bathroom, but she does the garden. Do you know, it's that kind of, do you know, but it's a conversation we've had to have, because there hasn't been that assumption that the guy cuts the grass and the woman does the housework. Because I'm just very aware of seeing that with my patients on a regular basis. And again, that's part of that. It's not quite asking for help because it's your partner, if you're lucky enough to live with somebody. It's their responsibility too. If they lived alone, they would do it. Yeah. But because they live with somebody else, they just, well,
as the case may be.
Most people do. Most. Yeah. Maybe not to your standards. Yeah, that's the other thing, is about looking, again, talking about the values and that level of standards, and like leaving the dishes till every single pot has been used. It's like that. Why does that matter? As long as they're getting done and the place is clean, that's fine. If you wait until the end of 2 days. Like, for example, my dad years ago lived on his own, and the house he stayed in had a dishwasher. So he deliberately bought enough dishes so that he only had to use the dishwasher when it was full. Now, as a single man, that took quite a few days. But that's what he did. So rather than doing the dishes every day, he just let it build up for a few days and made sure he had enough plates to survive those few days. And then did so just shift. It's that. Yeah, to me that makes perfect sense. It's that you're making the most of what you can without getting yourself too caught up in being this perfect thing of you can't possibly have a coffee cup sitting at the side of your table for a day or whatever. Do you know, there's ways and means around all these things.
Yeah, and I think some people are so worried about judgment that people are coming round, but actually if they're your friends and they're your family, like, that's the thing that goes in my house, is the housework. There's often dishes on the side, because if somebody pops round, if they love me and mine, then they love me and mine, and actually it doesn't matter whether I've got a pot full of a sink full of pots even. Yeah. And that's taken me a long time to get there, mind you. That's taken me a long time to feel that actually, and if they don't like that, then that's fine.
They come to my house.
Yeah, exactly. and it hasn't stopped people coming, so I don't see why it does. I'm just interested in, how do you, so the question, going back to the question, is how do you know when you're in balance? So
when I am in
different.
Yes, I do. I feel things, the best word, I was thinking about this quite a lot last night actually, the best word for me to describe it is that life feels easy. I'm not constantly in conflict, and I'm not constantly, so when you, for example, going back to the kind of energy side of things and that tiredness feeling, if I'm exhausted, everything becomes a battle. It's that, right, oh, I need to go into the dishes, oh, I need to go into this, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that, nah. But I'm exhausted. Whereas if I just take things a little bit slower for a bit, build my energy back up again, things just flow, things get done. The things that matter get done. That's how I would phrase it. It's that, like, well, actually, what's my priorities? That's what will get done. So for me, it's that's the kind of crux of it. It's that ease. There's no guilt. There's no resistance around doing things. It just happens. I also sleep better because I've done enough during the day. So I've used my yang up, if you like. If you think of it as like a complete unit almost, and you have to have it almost half and half all the time, roughly. It's not that simple, but we'll go with that. So I've used up my yang for the day, so then I sleep well that night. But I've also given myself the time to kind of wind down and switch off that yang energy, switch off the head before I go to bed. So it's that thing of, you know, for me, it's setting up bedtime routines. Like most parents do it with their children without even thinking about it. You know, it's like everything starts to get a bit quieter. You have your, you know, story time, maybe a bath or something if you do that at night, whatever. But it's not crazy, let's go to the ball pool for half an hour and then go straight to bed, because that just doesn't work. But as adults, we expect ourselves to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll sit and watch, even if it's just TV, that, like, I don't have an aerial anymore as such, so I don't watch terrestrial telly. But from what I remember, it's always really high impact, high drama, stuff that gets your heart racing.
Yeah.
And gets you really engaged, because that is good telly. But then you expect yourself to go straight to sleep. And it's like, well, no, wait a minute. I've just watched all these people being chased and blah, 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 and murders and whatever else you see on the telly. And then I expect myself to go to sleep. It doesn't, you know, so it's winding yourself down. So I make a conscious effort to read for a little bit. I also make a point of going out every night for a quick walk with my dogs. I've got dogs, so it makes it much easier. You know, the last pee of the night. And then from that point on, it's quiet. I don't, you know, social media goes off, all that sort of stuff, and just give my brain a rest. I'll read a book if I feel like it, but I also pay attention to what books I'm reading. So I won't read something that's incredibly thought-provoking right before I go to bed. I'll read something that's quite easy, and if I fall asleep halfway through a chapter, that's fine. I can just put it down and go to sleep. It's fine. So it's that idea of just things just feel easier, things flow, you're not constantly in battle. Your energy's good. You're also, when you're fully in balance, if you like, you won't get ill. You won't feel tired, you won't get infections, you won't have any mental health struggles. Anxiety is a huge thing. Anxiety is that, as you mentioned before, about your brain just going crazy. And along with all the physical symptoms that go with it as well. That's a very yang state. So you need to counter it with the yin. Yeah, I think I've answered your question. Sorry, I feel like I'm prattling.
Totally. The thing that I was thinking about, if you are out of balance then, and the pots need doing, do you do them feeling this is hard, or would you just leave them?
It kind of depends. If you are going to spend the rest of that, so if, say for example, it's 8 o'clock at night or whatever, the kids are in bed, you're exhausted, but the pots need doing. If you're going to sit down on the sofa and spend the entire time worrying about the fact that the pots aren't done, just do the pots.
What would you do?
But if you could
do it, do you leave them?
I would leave them.
You'd leave them?
I would leave them. But again, as you said before, that's because I've done the work on it, and I know that tomorrow when I feel better, I'll do them then. If I have time, again, it's that thing of how's your life planned. If you know you're about to go and work a 12-hour shift, maybe you need to do the dishes now rather than doing them tomorrow. And the same, like food prep and stuff, I batch cook. So days when I have the time to do these activities is the days I do them. And then the days when I'm really busy and I don't have time to cook, I know the food's already done.
Yeah.
So it's that thing of trying to plan your life a little bit. I'm not one for strict rules around things, and I tend to be quite like, I'm in the mood today, yeah, great. Am I not? Oh well. Most things I kind of give myself a bit of give or take with it. So again, unfortunately, it kind of depends. If I'm absolutely exhausted and just need to sleep, I'll go to sleep. If I'm going to sit there thinking about it for 4 hours, feeling guilty about it, then I'll probably just do the task. But it depends what the task is. I mean, doing the pots isn't a huge thing to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, like cutting the grass, for example, is a much bigger, in our garden anyway, it's a much bigger task than doing the dishes. Doing the dishes will take me 10 minutes. Doing the grass is 2 hours. So I'll do the dishes, but I won't cut the grass.
I think so. Maybe it sounds very much like you know yourself after doing all this work. You know yourself really well. So this is coming back to this whole self-awareness. So getting the listeners to go almost like, right, how do I feel?
How do I feel? Yeah.
Am I going to be stressed about this? If it's a yes, go do them. If it's no, then I'll do them tomorrow. But if I can't do them tomorrow, but just have that internal dialogue, like calmly, to say, what's going on for me?
Yeah.
Is it because I've run around like a crazy loon all day and I actually haven't stopped? Actually, this is my time to stop. So I am going to stop. I'm giving myself the permission. So just having that internal dialogue rather than running around like a headless chicken all the time. And also not get anything done. Yeah.
That running around like a headless chicken, why? Why are you running around like a headless chicken? It's that thing of, as you said before, about coming back to your values and what's actually important. Does every single one of these headless chicken type jobs need to be done? Are you doing it because you want to do it, because your house needs to be in a particular way? Are you doing it, again, like you say, because of judgment, because of fear of the pressure of other people and the expectation of what other people think you should be doing, which social media adds a huge amount to, I think, with that. And I remember you talking about that right at the start of lockdown about the don't try and be a teacher thing. You know, it's like, you're not a teacher, don't try and do it. It's not your job. So it's that also looking at the whys. So why are you running around like a headless chicken? What is it serving? Why are you doing it?
And if it's for somebody else or something society said that you should be like this, should, that whole should word, that, you know, it's almost like, stop. You're doing it for the wrong reasons, do the things that really matter. And I think that is an amazing end to the podcast. It rounds off so beautifully. Thank you. That's like half an hour gone like that. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been absolutely amazing.
It's been fabulous. Thank you.
Take care.